Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, in my opinion, some potential bad news coming out of the middleweight division. According to various reports online, Demetrius Andrade is seriously considering vacating his WBO middleweight title. Of course, his mandatory challenger is Janibek Alimkhanuly, who is currently 11-0, coming off a couple of good performances over Rob Brandt, a former WBA regular champion, and also the veteran Hassan Ndam. So Janibek right now is waiting for his title shot. He's been going the WBO route for quite some time, and he's been very vocal on social media in regards to expressing his desire to fight Demetrius Andrade. And yeah, all in all, I think that potential fight is rather interesting. So far, quite frankly, Demetrius Andrade's middleweight reign has been pretty uninspiring, to say the least. Some absolutely dreadful opponents, such as Luke Keeler, Jason Quigley, Arthur Akavov, etc. And, you know, for me, this fight right here would be interesting. Of course, you know, being 11-0 on the come-up, we don't really know how good Janibek is. But what we do know is he's coming from good amateur pedigree, he carries respectable power, he's a southpaw, and he's extremely hungry. He wants this title shot, and in particular, he wants Demetrius Andrade. So he's saying all of the right things, and when you look at Andrade's middleweight reign, I think it's safe to say that Janibek would be one of, if not the most interesting opponent that Andrade has fought at middleweight. So I really want to see this fight, but he is bitching and moaning that he has to defend his title against another mandatory, and he's now thinking about moving to 168 to challenge for the interim WBO super middleweight title against Zach Parker. That's what he's looking at as an alternative. I'll ask you guys, what would you be more excited for? Andrade versus Parker at 168 or Andrade versus Janibek? Me personally, I think Janibek is far more interesting of an opponent in comparison to Zach Parker. You know, Zach Parker's okay, he does have talent, but he's not really for anybody on the level. I know Janibek's level of competition hasn't been great so far, but, you know, he's at least fought a guy like Rob Brandt, who is better than anybody who Zach Parker has fought. So, you know, Zach Parker looks okay, he does carry power, and I'm not saying Andrade versus Parker is necessarily terrible. We would have to wait to find out, but on paper, I believe that Janibek is a far more interesting opponent, and I see a lot of Andrade fans online basically shill and cap for Andrade. They're essentially co-signing this and saying it's good business, yet these are the same people who are saying that Andrade's been ducked for the last 2 years. Despite here we have a guy in Janibek who really wants this fight, and he's wanted it for quite some time, yet these Andrade fanboys don't want to see it. I'm not sure why that is. They was perfectly happy watching Andrade beat up Jason Quigley, who, let's be honest, absolutely sucks. They was happy with Luke Keeler, Arthur Akavov, but Janibek, God forbid he gets a title shot, how dare he call for his mandatory shot? That's how it appears online, at least. You know, these are the guys pushing the narrative that Andrade is some sort of boogeyman, yet here we have Janibek basically shattering that and saying he wants the fight. And on top of that, the hypocrisy of these Andrade fanboys, and honestly I'm presuming they're Matchroom fanboys because, let's be honest, Andrade doesn't really have many fans, but the hypocrisy of these people, you know, they're co-signing Andrade dropping his title and avoiding his Mando at 160, and then they're saying, let him go to 168, fight Zach Parker for the interim, and then force the mandatory on Canelo, and they'll expect Canelo to oblige his mandatory, unlike Andrade. Like, these guys can't see the hypocrisy in what they're saying. Yet in reality, Andrade does next to nothing for Canelo Alvarez. That's the reality. There's nobody out there apart from a very small minority of people who are saying that Canelo needs to fight Andrade before the end of his career, like Andrade adds anything to Canelo's legacy. There are fights out there right now for Canelo that would be far more beneficial for his legacy other than Andrade. I'm talking about guys like Dimitri Bivol, Artur Beterbiev, even Joe Smith Jr., David Benavidez. These fights would do a lot more for Canelo Alvarez. I would even say Jamal Charlo falls into that category. Canelo has much better options, yet these guys are co-signing Andrade moving to 168 in the hope that Canelo obliges his Mando and fights Andrade, when in reality, more than likely, that is not going to happen. Canelo will look at the landscape and see that there are bigger fish out there to fry. And I'm not a Canelo fan, but that is the reality. Andrade does nothing for Canelo, so him still chasing that fight, in my opinion, is a complete waste of time. I don't get why he just doesn't stay at middleweight, keep defending that title. I mean, I think he would beat Janibek, by the way. I would pick Andrade to beat Janibek. I think Janibek is dangerous. I think it's risky. But I think Andrade would win that fight. But the reality is, because it's high risk, low reward, that's why Andrade is looking to duck. You can't call yourself the Boogeyman in one breath and then do what he's doing and potentially vacating a title. So, for me, this whole scenario is extremely disappointing. I mean, what was the point in fighting Jason Quigley? If this is how you felt, just move up in the first place. Just move up. Why waste your time fighting Jason fucking Quigley? And the moment a good mandatory is called, you're bitching and moaning and talking about vacating. And yet people are out here co-signing it. I see people say, oh, what does Janibek do for Andrade's career? In reality, probably not that much, but he's certainly more credible than Jason Quigley. What did Jason Quigley do for Andrade's career? What did Luke Keeler do for Andrade's career? What did Akovov do for Andrade's career? You tell me. You tell me. I mean, Janibek is certainly more valuable than those guys. Right? So, it is what it is, man. I think it's disappointing. It's disappointing. A lot of people want to see the fight. I think it's interesting. I mean, Andrade's not exactly a catch himself. I mean, I would kind of understand if he had better options and he could get access to big fights. I could understand, but he doesn't. He doesn't have any options, you know? So, and we've seen that in the last few years of his career. So, for him to turn his nose up at Janibek and avoid that fight, to me it would be a flat-out duck and disappointing. You know, that's how I see it. Anyway, share your thoughts below. What do you make of this Andrade situation? Do you think he should defend his title against his Mando? Or do you co-sign his move to 168 to fight for an interim title against Zach Parker in the hope that Canelo blesses him and gives him a payday? What do you think is the right move for Demetrius Andrade? Share your thoughts below. Peace.